By the time the lookout saw her, the brigantine in the distance had all her sails set and drawing, her course steady across the empty Atlantic. But there was not a single person visible on deck. No answering wave, no movement, but the slow mechanical swing of the rudder and the creak of rigging moving a ship that seemed to be sailing itself. Why does an unfinished scene like that make the human brain reach not for the simplest mistake, but for curses, monsters, and murder? It is early December 1872 in the North Atlantic, about 600 miles west of Portugal, in a world where most long-distance trade still moves on wooden sailing ships, and where, if a crew vanishes beyond the horizon, there is no radio, no satellite, no way to know what happened except what the survivors can tell you. And this time, there will be no survivors at all. The age of steam has begun, but has not yet replaced sail. Storms still decide fates. Navigation is done with a chronometer and a sextant, and a single bad decision at sea can erase an entire family without leaving a mark on the wood. The ship that will become the center of this mystery does not even start her life as the Mary Celeste, because she is launched in Spencer's Island, Nova Scotia, in 1861 as the brigantine Amazon, a 100-foot, roughly 280-ton vessel built for Atlantic trade, which soon gains a quiet reputation among sailors as unlucky after a captain dies of illness on her first voyage, and she collides with other ships more than once. She is badly damaged near the English Channel in 1867, sold as a wreck, brought to New York, rebuilt, and in 1868 given a new name, Mary Celeste, and an American registration, which means that by 1872 she is a relatively small but seaworthy merchant ship with a checkered past and owners who intend to make money hauling cargo between New York and Europe. One of those owners is James H. Winchester of New York, but the figure who matters most is the man he hires to command her, Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, a 37-year-old experienced New England seaman from a respected maritime family in Marion, Massachusetts, who has spent most of his life at sea but has recently talked with his brother about leaving the ocean for good. Briggs is considered steady, serious, and devoutly religious, which is why it is striking when he decides to bring part of his family with him on this voyage. His 30-year-old wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, while their 7-year-old son, Arthur, remains with his grandmother at home. So this is not just a commercial voyage, it is a family decision that Briggs believes is safe enough to risk his own child on. To sail the ship, Briggs selects a small crew of 7, including his first mate, Albert G. Richardson, a capable seaman who had previously sailed with him, and several German and Danish sailors with good references, which matters because later stories will claim that this must have been a dangerous crew ready to mutiny, even though nothing in their records suggests it. The Mary Celeste is loaded in New York with 701 barrels of denatured industrial alcohol. Bound for Genoa, Italy, not drinking alcohol, but a strong, volatile cargo used for industry that can produce flammable fumes. And after delays, she finally leaves New York Harbor on 7th November 1872, sailing east into the North Atlantic autumn storms. Briggs writes letters from New York on through November, describing the ship as in beautiful trim and expressing quiet optimism about the voyage. But as Mary Celeste makes her way east, she meets exactly what late-year North Atlantic sailors expect: rough seas, heavy weather, and the constant labor of keeping a small brigantine moving in strong winds without losing masts or rigging. We know this not because anyone survives to tell the story, but because of the ship's logbook, which is later found and shows routine entries about position and weather up until the last entry on the summer morning of 25 of November 1872, placing her near the Azores, close to the island of Santa Maria, so on paper, nothing looks like a ship in serious trouble. 8 days after that last log entry, another ship leaves New York, the British brigantine Dei Gratia, commanded by Captain David Morehouse, carrying a cargo of petroleum and also heading toward Europe, which is important because later accounts will note that Briggs and Morehouse knew each other and had reportedly dined together in New York before their separate departures. On our 4th of December 1872, often reported as the 5th depending on how the dates are counted. About halfway between the Azores and the coast of Portugal, the lookout of the Dei Gratia spots a vessel sailing erratically, her course unsteady, her sails set but poorly trimmed, which makes Morehouse suspicious enough to alter course and try to identify the stranger. Through his spyglass, Morehouse eventually reads the name Mary Celeste on the other ship's stern, but he sees no one at the wheel, no one answering signals, no crew on deck at all, so he orders a boarding party led by his first mate, Oliver Deveau, to row over and investigate, because in 1872 a derelict ship in mid-ocean is both a danger to navigation and a potential salvage prize. When Deveau climbs the rail, he finds the decks wet and in poor order, some sails torn, some rigging damaged, but no signs of a catastrophic storm, and no person anywhere on board. So the scene is eerie not because of gore or overturned furniture, but because everything looks like work had simply stopped in the middle of a normal day. Inside the cabins, Deveau and his men find that the crew's and officers' possessions are still there, including boots, oilskins, and pipes, and the cargo of alcohol barrels in the hold is largely intact, though they note that several barrels are empty and that there is about 3.5 feet, roughly 1 meter, of water in the hold, which is more than ideal but not enough to sink a ship of that size. The Tasser ship's boat, a small yawl used as a lifeboat, is missing. There is no sign of obvious violence, no pools of blood, no damaged rail that would suggest a wave had washed everyone overboard at once. The galley stores are plentiful, and there is food and water for months, so the question is not why the Mary Celeste is still afloat, but why her people chose to leave a floating, provisioned, reasonably sound ship for a much smaller and more vulnerable boat. Some key instruments are missing: the second sextant, squarny chronometer, and the ship's papers except for the logbook, which suggests that whoever left did so in an organized way and expected to navigate and be found. But one of the pumps is disassembled and the other appears clogged, which means that Briggs may not have had a reliable way to measure exactly how much water was coming into the hull. If you imagine yourself standing on that deck, feeling the ship work under you, and hearing water slosh below while your pump gives you uncertain readings, and you know you are carrying a cargo that can produce explosive fumes, your brain might start to calculate risk very differently from how it would in a calm, dry office years later. Captain Morehouse decides to split his exhausted crew, sending Deveau and a small team to sail the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, while Dei Gratia sails in company, because the law of the sea says that if you bring in an abandoned vessel and its cargo, you can claim a substantial salvage award. But this also sets up the next stage of the story: suspicion. When both ships reached Gibraltar in late December 1872, the local British authorities, led by Attorney General Frederick Solly Flood, opened an official inquiry, and Solly Flood almost immediately becomes convinced that there must have been foul play, perhaps a conspiracy by the Dei Gratia crew, to murder the people of the Mary Celeste for profit, even though he can find no physical evidence on the wood to support that story. Newspapers learn the bare bones of the case: a ship found under sail, crew vanished, no obvious damage, valuable cargo intact, and in the absence of detail, they begin to fill the gaps with speculation. Perhaps pirates boarded, killed everyone, and fled. Perhaps the crew mutinied, killed Briggs, and escaped. Perhaps Briggs murdered his crew and family and then killed himself. Perhaps a waterspout or a seaquake terrified everyone into abandoning ship. Your brain does this too. When you hear ship under sail, crew gone, it automatically starts proposing stories that feel complete and dramatic, even if they are statistically unlikely and unsupported by the few hard facts we have. Solly Flood's inquiry digs into the crew's past, examines the hull, and inspects the cargo, but he cannot demonstrate any sign of violence, of intentional damage, or of a profitable fraud scheme affecting Winchester, Briggs, or the Dei Gratia's owners. So in the end, the court begrudgingly grants the Dei Gratia crew a salvage award that is conspicuously low, about 1/5 of the ship and cargo's value, smaller than might normally be expected, which quietly signals that the authorities still suspect something, even if they cannot prove it. Because there is no definitive explanation, and because official suspicion lingers in the air without resolution, the story spreads and mutates, which is where imagination begins to overtake documentation. Over the next decade, the public story of the Mary Celeste gets steadily stranger as it is retold. But the single biggest distortion comes in 1884, when a still young Arthur Conan Doyle publishes a short story called J. Habakkuk Jeffson's Statement. In a magazine renaming the ship the mighty Mary Celeste, and filling the narrative with invented horrors, bloodstains on the deck, a captain's log ending in mid-sentence, a tea still warm on the table, and a mystery assassin. Many readers, and later some journalists, fail to notice that Doyle's story is presented as fiction. So over time, pieces of his invention slip into supposedly factual accounts, which is why you may have heard that there were meals left on the table or still smoldering pipes on the real Mary Celeste, even though the original Gibraltar records describe no such thing. When we strip away the later folklore and return to what is actually recorded in 1872, we are left with a much narrower set of possibilities, which fall roughly into human violence, sudden natural disaster, and technical accident leading to a panicked but rational abandonment. The violent theories, mutiny, piracy, murder for insurance, run into the problem that nothing is missing except the people, their navigational instruments, and the yawl. There is no damage that suggests a struggle, and the cargo, which would have been valuable to pirates, is still on board. So these stories satisfy our taste for drama, but contradict the observed state of the ship. The sudden disaster theories, a water spout, a seaquake, a rogue wave, might explain some damage to sails and rigging and the open hatches, but they do not explain why the yawl is neatly gone, why the log continues up to a normal entry, or why Briggs would remove his navigation instruments and leave with his family in an orderly way, rather than everyone being swept overboard at once. So they feel cinematic but not fully convincing. What remains is the quieter but more psychologically interesting idea that something about the cargo, the water in the hold, and the malfunctioning pumps convinced an otherwise cautious captain that his safest option was to get his people off a ship he believed might be about to explode or sink. Investigators later note that 9 of the 101 barrels worth of alcohol in the hold are empty, and that these particular barrels were made of a red oak, which is more porous and prone to leaking than the white oak used for the others, so it is plausible that fumes escaped into the hold and then up into the ship, creating a strong smell and perhaps even a small flash explosion that left no scorch marks but terrified the crew. The pump trouble meant Briggs may have had no reliable way to gauge whether seawater was coming in faster than usual. The log shows that he had altered course nearer to the Azores as if seeking land, and if his chronometer was even slightly inaccurate, as many were after long periods without proper calibration, he might have believed himself much closer to a safe island than he truly was. Imagine that morning near the Azores. The ship has taken a beating in heavy weather. The hold smells strongly of alcohol fumes. One pump is dismantled on deck. The other is suspect. The sounding rod readings are ambiguous. Your family's on board, and you fear that a single spark could turn the hull into a floating bomb. In that situation, stepping into the yawl with your navigational instruments, ordering the ship to be temporarily abandoned, to tow behind you on a rope until the danger passes or land appears, may feel like a calculated, protective decision rather than a panic, even if from the outside it looks like the worst choice. The heartbreaking detail is that whatever mistake Benjamin Briggs would made that day, he made it holding his 2-year-old daughter and asking 7 other men to trust his judgment, which means that when the wind or a sudden squall snapped the tow line or drove the Mary Celeste faster than the small boat could follow, 10 lives were lost not to a monster or a murderer, but to one wrong risk calculation in an empty ocean. In that sense, the most disturbing part of this story is not that it is unsolved, but that it is all too easy to imagine yourself making the same call under the same pressure. Because your brain, like his, is built to fear vivid, immediate dangers like fire more than slower, less visible ones like drifting beyond rescue. Closure type. Most likely closure. No single document proves the exact sequence of events, but the strongest explanation, accepted by many maritime historians, is that Briggs temporarily abandoned a still seaworthy ship because of leaking alcohol fumes, faulty pump readings, and a mistaken belief about how close he was to land, and that the yawl was then separated and lost with everyone on board, leaving the Mary Celeste to sail on alone until the Dei Gratia found her. That explanation helps us separate myth from reality, because the popular image of hot meals left on the table, steaming cups of tea, and a captain's journal ending mid-sentence owes far more to Arthur Conan Doyle's 1884 fiction and later sensational retellings than to the Gibraltar court records or the surviving log. In the real case, the cabin was wet and untidy, but not frozen in time. The last log entry was routine, and there were no dramatic half-finished breakfasts or cryptic final messages, which makes the story less theatrical but more human, because what vanished was not a staged tableau, but the ordinary disorder of 10 lives interrupted. After the inquiry, the Mary Celeste is returned to her owners and continues to sail under new captains. But her reputation as a cursed ship grows, especially after a later owner, Captain Gilman C. Parker, deliberately wrecks her on a reef off Haiti in Nasaitui Tumafai in an attempted insurance fraud. Over-insuring a largely worthless cargo and then claiming a total loss, the fraud is detected, Parker and others are prosecuted, and although criminal penalties are relatively light, Parker's career is effectively destroyed, and several of the conspirators die within a few years, which, in the superstitious imagination of the time, reinforces the idea that the Mary Celeste brings bad luck to anyone who touches her. Her broken hull slowly rots away on that Caribbean reef, probably scattered by storms and time. So today there is no museum-preserved ship to visit, only archival records. The Gibraltar inquiry documents, shipping registers, newspaper reports, and surviving letters from Benjamin and Sarah Briggs before they sailed, along with later historical studies that try to reconstruct a few missing hours in the middle of the Atlantic. What remains in the public mind, however, is less the paperwork and more the enduring image of a ship moving under its own canvas with nobody visible on deck. A kind of floating question that generations have tried to answer with whatever fears their era finds most compelling. This story matters because it shows how the human mind treats uncertainty as an insult. So when we encounter a scene with strong emotion but missing information, a ship without a crew, a locked room, a vanished family, we tend to prefer a satisfying lie to an unsatisfying doubt. Your brain would rather believe in pirates, sea monsters, or a homicidal captain than accept that a cautious, competent man misread a few instruments, made a single bad decision under pressure, and quietly disappeared with his family into waves that left almost nothing to see. In that sense, the Mary Celeste is less a ghost story than a mirror, reflecting the way we build narratives out of fragments, how quickly fiction can overwrite fact when it feels better, and how easily an ordinary human error can be transformed into an eternal mystery simply because there was no one left to explain it. All that was truly left moving across that ocean in December 1872 was a damaged wooden brig following the wind by itself, her log closed on an ordinary entry, carrying the absence of 10 people no one ever saw again.